Wow. There's that sound again. It must be time for Slick Daddy's Open Bar, huh? Welcome, friends, enemies, people of the night, people of the day. It is Monday, and I promised you a celebrity. I promised you a legendary local Western New York radio personality. And instead, it looks like you're going to be stuck with me. That's right. The individual that was excited about doing this cannot do it because they're on medication, which is making their voice hoarse. So, you're stuck with me today. So I thought, I was going to interview a legendary Western New York jock, but there ain't one. So the easiest way out for me is to interview myself. So that's what I'm going to do. That's right. I'm going to totally bore you with my life in radio and how I got started. And this may have to be a part 3 series because there's a lot of stations, there's a lot of shit, a lot of winners, a lot of losers, a lot of assholes, a lot of good people. So it starts probably, around 1977 at Cable Radio, which was a television owned by International Cable, a TV company, and they had a little converted gas station that was like their own radio station, and they would play music over the television, when they would show, the channel that would show the listings for what's going to be on what channel. A lot of people would pipe in easy music, beautiful music station, but they had their own cable channel. We called it 24 ICR radio. Yeah, fucking 24 ICR. Let's hear it, huh? I think I came up with that. I was the program director for a while, as a matter of fact. But it was a lot of fun, and we didn't get paid to go there. But it was kind of like going to broadcasting school. We didn't get paid to work there, but we got, to do 4-hour shifts. And a lot of people I work with there that got into radio, Carl, Russo, Rob Lederman worked there with me, Wayne Mack on your back, huh? Who doesn't remember Wayne Mack? The Mac Attack. So, Donnie Tomasulu. So a lot of people got their start working there, and they did get in trouble later on for not paying people. Somebody blew them in, got pissed off, and blew them into the labor board. They had to, actually go back and pay people. Now, I had been gone for a couple of years when I was told this, so I never looked into it. But, I could have got some money off the cheap bastards, International Cable, back in the day. But the interesting thing about that building, it was on Sheridan Drive right across the street from Anderson's, and it was a converted gas station. So nobody could say I didn't pay my fucking dues. Listen, man, I worked at a radio station that was at a converted gas station. It was a converted gas station, and the records, it would get so fucking hot in there because, gas stations have these big-ass windows. The records would actually warp as they spun around. I kid you not. They would warp. It would actually warp right in front of your eyes. No air conditioning, just these big windows beating down on the turntables, melting the vinyl. And if you had to go to the John, you're going outside because it's a gas station. So you get the key, you go around the back, and that's that's how you had to relieve yourself. You had to go to like it was a gas station. So, sometimes some assholes would come by and ask for the, the key. Hey, can I use your bathroom, man? It's like, look, I'm trying to explain, this is a radio station, okay? This is not a gas station anymore. So in any event, it was a good place to get experience. And, I was a pain in the ass teenager. I used to call all the jocks. They all knew me, the all-night guys especially, like Kenny Davis, Tom Donahue. I used to call these guys, and somebody told me about this cable radio. And so WYSL PhD had an opening. They were looking for a board op. So they said, well, let's hire Tiberi. I mean, he wants to get into radio so bad he can taste it. Let's hire him. So they hired me to run the board. And I'm about 17 at this point. And then I kept giving Harv more tapes. He was the, program director for both stations back then. And, he'd say, yeah, it's sounds good. Kids, keep working at it, kid. Keep working at it. And then eventually they hired me to do the all-night show on Saturdays. And then so you'd have like 3 or 4 hours of a radio show, and then the rest would be like public service on Sunday morning shit that you'd have to run. But, that's how you started back then, on the Saturday night show, overnight show. And then if you're lucky, you got the all-night show. You worked your way up to that. You did the all-night show 5 nights a week, midnight to 6. And I ended up doing that. And the only thing that sucked is there was some disco shit, Club fucking 747. Remember that place? They piped it in. I was so excited when I got the gig, and then like a week later, we were going to run this Club 747 show. So it was streamed over a telephone line. It's just dance music playing the whole night. And so I would just cut in every 15 minutes and go, hey, you're listening to Live from the Club 747 on 14 WYSL. And it sucked. I hated it. And it would go till 4 a.m. and then it would be like, great, I can play records now. I could actually be a jock from 4 to 6. But eventually I got shit canned. Yeah, it happens. It happens in this business. What are you going to do? Like Bum Phillips says, there's only 2 kind of coaches, them that's hired and them that's going to get fired. And it's kind of the same thing in radio. So they switched the format to WYSL to easy listening with Al Martino and, Deja Vu, Dionne Warwick, that kind of shit. So obviously I didn't fit in with Dionne and her psychic friends. So they shit canned me, and I threw everything in the back of my 74 Camaro, and I went and worked for a lunatic named the Flying Dutchman, Pete Barry, in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Now, Dutch had probably worked at about 30 radio stations. He was like the Lou Saban of radio, okay? He would go into towns and he would take over these radio stations that sucked, and he'd get them going, and then he'd leave. He would make these list of demands every month and, threaten to leave. But anyways, he did mornings. He was great. And so he was the guy that I worked for, and I remember I got the all-night show. It was $130 a week pay, and my rent was like $160 a month. I lived 1 mile from the radio station with no red lights. How
much them white folks paying you, boy?
That's right, no red lights. So it was beautiful, man. I could get to work really quick, and stayed there for about a year. I got moved up to the 7 to midnight show because they had this redneck guy, and I think Dutch wanted to get rid of him because he didn't rock enough. He played a lot of, like, you could go in and pick your own songs from the list of songs, and he would pick out all its wimpy shit. The Fifth Dimension, One Less Bell. These wimpy songs that nobody played, he would play them. So what they did was they asked him at a promotion if he would wear a chicken suit, and he refused. So they shit canned him. Dutch shit canned him for that. For not. He's like, can you believe that, Tiberi? The Flying Dutchman is firing me for not wearing a chicken suit. Can you believe that? And I'm just like shaking my head. Yeah, that's really unreasonable. And so I ended up getting his show, and I did that for a while. And then, things kind of went south there, and Dutch, made a list of demands, and this time he didn't come back. So did I lose my virginity there in that town too? Yes, I did. Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I had a great time. And so Dutch left, and then I left shortly afterwards, and I ended up in Rochester, New York, coming back this way, working for an old friend of mine, Jim Snowden. Now, Snowden was the all-night guy at KB. I was the all-night guy at YSL. And we used to meet up for breakfast at Howard Johnson's at Hojo's. And so now he's, this is, a few years later, and he's the program director in Rochester, WHFM, which is Wham's FM station, or it was back then, Rust Communications. And so Snowden says, how'd you like to come, work here, 6 to 10, $220 a week? It was like big money back then. I'm like, yeah, sure. And so I was there in Rochester, had a good time in Rochester. Snowden was stoned all the time, but eventually he ended up leaving, and then they replaced him with this guy who was kind of a douchebag. So I didn't really get along with him too good, and that's kind of the story of my life. So then I ended up going back down south to Tennessee, Nashville, and the Flying Dutchman, who I'd worked with in North Carolina, was now consulting this station, and the owner was kind of a dick. And I was evolving my personality, becoming more smart ass, whatever you want to say. And he didn't like it. He wanted me to be like an adult contemporary. Hi, this is John Smith. Good evening. We're having a great time tonight, kind of shit. And so obviously that didn't work out. And so he pulled me into his office. I think I was there 2 months, and, threatened up that he was going to fire me and all this shit. Really fucked me up. And then I just started to get an attitude, and I was only there like 6 months, and I'm like, good, I hope they fucking fire me. I just want to go back to South Buffalo. I just want to go back to Buffalo. Fuck this place. Fuck this Roach Motel. Yeah, then I had an apartment there in Tennessee. It was bad. Everything was bad. The gig was bad. The first place I moved into was a Roach Motel. I should have known. I saw a roach there in the daytime when I was looking at the apartment, thinking about renting it out. And they're like, oh, don't worry, we're going to spray. We're putting in new rugs, everything. First night I come home from the radio station, I get some potato chips at Kroger's. And, I said, well, I'll get some bug spray just for the hell of it, in case there's any bugs, maybe one or two that's still lingering around that these idiots might have missed. Sprayed a little bug spray behind the refrigerator, and they came out like a fucking Stephen King movie. Roaches, like an army of roaches. And they start coming out, and like I said, it's only a kitchenette, so they're in the dining room, and now they're marching down the hallway towards the bedroom and the bathroom. And I'm like, fuck this, man. I'm from South Buffalo. I never seen a roach in my life. And so I call these assholes up, and I'm looking, I got these roaches in here. It's an infestation. And they're like, don't worry, we'll spray, we'll get rid of them. So they get this guy, he's like, he's on the level of a 6-year-old, but he's a grown man, and he's using the stuff like full strength. They're supposed to mix it with water. They're supposed to cut it with something, and he's using it full strength. And so every morning I wake up for like 3 days in a row, and I'm like, there's dead roaches everywhere. It's just disgusting. So I said, look it, man. I said, I'm out of here. I signed a 1-year contract there, lease. They said, that's fine. We'll let you out of your lease. And I said, I want my cleaning fee back. And they wouldn't give it back to me. I said, look, I didn't pay a cleaning fee to fucking clean up dead fucking roaches every day. You know what I'm saying? So they said, well, we tried. This rich prick dentist owned it. And he's like, yeah, well, we tried everything we could to satisfy you. And I'm like, give me a fucking break. So I ended up moving to another apartment, which was much more expensive. But here's the good part. They didn't have roaches. And let me tell you, you don't mind paying a little bit more to not have roaches, if you know what I'm saying. So that was a good thing. So listen, eventually they fired me. I come in late all the time, and I would just do a real boring show because that's what they wanted me to do. And so the Flying Dutchman ended up coming to my house and firing me. Now, he had moved down there after that point. And he's like, well, the record stands. I hired you twice. I fired you once. So they actually said that. And I was like, that's cool, man. Listen, I just want to get the fuck out of here. He said, you went too much the other way. I said, yeah, well, I know. So I went back to Buffalo, and let's just leave it there. Okay, those are my 3 years on the road, 18 to 21, so whatever that time period, and we'll call it part one of the amazing radio career of the Slick One. Yes, the disheveled one, and I could actually stretch this into a couple of podcasts for cripe's sakes. I don't have to think of anything for a while. I'll just talk about my stupid radio career, and we'll do part two when the Slick Daddy comes back to Buffalo in 1982, when we do part two of this lame-ass interview. Make sure you share this podcast with your friends, people you hate, enemies, whoever. We need this fucker out there. We need subscribers. Go to the www. You got to put the www.slicktom.com. Until next time, part two of what makes Slick Daddy ticks. Until then, remember, trickle-down economics is a golden shower. Live fast, die old. Weed, whiskey, and Warren Zevon. Go Bills.